Hey guys, so Marshall here again, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that Fury I bought since its fan base seems to keep growing. I've just reached my 1,000 miles, which is first service, and popped in at the Honda shop today to have them change the oil, and there were eight bikes ahead of us, Jimmy. So did it myself because it really is not too hard to do. There are two bolts underneath that are kind of obvious for oil drain bolts. They take a number 17 socket, and if you're using a 1/2 inch ratchet, you shouldn't have any trouble getting them loose. I also recommend the 1/2 inch ratchet for tightening them up. Or use your torque wrench. The oil at 1,000 miles had no metal floating in it, unlike a Sportster I once had. I've also added a few more things to the bike. So first I'll show you the oil changing bolts. And by the way, you do not need to jack up the bike to do it if you're willing to lay on the ground.
It's so bright outside I can hardly see myself. Anyway, remove those two bolts. Open your oil cap and drain it out. The oil filter is in back, right there somewhere. If you can see that, I hope. Whole thing takes 20 minutes. So, changes made to the Fury. A national deflector screen. I think it was 140, bought from National themselves. I'll put the link in the video later. It comes right off just by turning these and pops right off, leaving the brackets in place for next time. I know I said I wasn't going to put a windshield on it, but I ride on the interstate all the time and it helps considerably. And this windshield can be put in line with the forks, which is the way it should be. Now the CNC seat also came in, and it is considerably more comfortable than the original because it supports more of your thighs and gluteus maximus than just your tailbone. It goes on super easy. It has a tang in the front that goes under the gas tank and a single screw back here. You might have to press down pretty hard on it to get that last screw in. That's typical of many aftermarkets that I've seen. Oh, and I added this phone mount. So last time I had mentioned the magnetic phone mount. Nifty little bag, wraps around the gas cap. There's a problem in the summer. It overheats your phone. Sitting in the sun, my phone was too hot to send a text message. It was shutting down all unnecessary apps in order to cool it down. So I switched to something a little more out in the wind, and it works pretty well. It also has a GoPro mount on it somewhere underneath that I haven't bothered to use yet because it's, handlebar mount. I'll get a good view of the blinker that way. But it just clamps right on, and it's fairly solid. Haven't had any trouble so far. Anyway, if I do any more mods to the bike, it might be get rid of the triangular air cleaner because I do not like things under my knee, even though unlike Harley it manages to just miss my knee. And I might add a louder horn. Other than that, the bike is still a joy at 1,000 miles to ride. I've now taken this bike up to the top of the Rocky Mountains
I've ridden the mountain twisties. I've sat in stop-and-go traffic in the city and on the interstate. I've ridden it on the dirt road. And it handles it all, except for a few things. It is a bit bouncy on repeating road cracks, so much so that a washboard gravel road might even throw you out of your seat. I'll chalk that up to its low price point though. The bike will cost you half of what an American V-twin will cost, and it weighs a couple 100 pounds less also. The stock seat had to go, or maybe a couple dozen pounds on me had to go. Guess which was faster and easier to accomplish? That's right, I changed the seat. So far, the CNC seat distributes my weight far better and lets me adopt different riding positions. The Mustang seat with a backrest looks mighty appealing too, but I was afraid it might break up the lines of the bike too much. I do feel some vibrations from this bike seat that weren't so prevalent before, but they're tolerable so far. We will break the seat in and then pass judgment. The new seat will actually be usable for the rear passenger as well. I do give free rides, ladies, just ask. My wife doesn't mind as long as it's not some epic grand adventure somewhere. We take the Goldwing for those anyway. It's a little difficult to read the fuel gauge, primarily because there isn't one. It would be nice to have one, but I grew up in an age where most bikes didn't have one, so you got used to using the odometer, which I do religiously. I reset it every time I fuel up, and I start thinking about finding a gas station around 95 miles or so. The skinny tank will throw the fuel light on around 105 miles. The good news is, unlike the American bikes, this one runs best on 87 octane regular unleaded. Filling it with premium may actually make it run worse, and you're just throwing your money away. The fuel computer is set for low octane. A bigger tank would have been nice, but this bike wasn't made to be a touring bike. It was made to be a movie prop, an eye-catcher, and that it does really well. I'm asked at every third gas station, hey, who makes that bike? The handlebars should have been brought back to a human's reach. But I think most bike manufacturers use orangutans to set the riding position. Very few bikes have bars in the right place for an average male. So it sounds like I'm whining, but since no bike is perfect, I'm just getting the bad out of the way. Did you see the video I attached to the Harley Pan America review? It's at the tail end, there's a link to it. I gave the Pan America an 87 out of a curve of about 90 for most bikes, because as I've said, the perfect bike doesn't exist. You always have to change something. I've had enough to know. So if I had to apply my own triple cheese BLT sandwich score to the Fury, it would go like this. T for tech. Well, there isn't any rider tech. There's no ride modes. There's no tachometer. There's no temperature gauge. Hell, there's not even a fuel gauge. I'll have to give tech a 1, and only because it has a speedometer and odometer. C, as in cheese, is also for clutch. It is a clutch cable and easily adjusted at the lever. The pull is light, and the clutch easily engages and disengages without being grabby. Because it isn't hydraulic though, and doesn't feature the numbered wheel that goes with a hydraulic clutch, I can only give it a 6. It will have to be oiled and or replaced at some point in the future. H for handling. It handles surprisingly well for a chopper design. I probably wouldn't try passing the MSF parking lot training class with it though. Doing a figure 8 in the painted box will take much practice, and you will eventually scrape a peg. I've done it. Handling, I'll give it a 5, because it's still a whole lot of fun to ride. E is for engine power. It's adequate really, and to lesser experienced riders, even thrilling. Pairing that power plant to a shaft drive gives it slightly less horsepower than a Sportster 1200 though. And dual counterbalancers eat some power as well, but at least it can't double as a paint shaker, as the Evo engine can easily do. You will not lose your fillings riding a Fury. I'll give the engine a 7. It's adequate, satisfactory. E for ergonomics. What ergonomics? I mean, seriously, what ergonomics? I mean, at least they gave you a seat. Forward controls don't support your weight. That's why you sit with your feet underneath your knees on a chair. But many people love forward controls. So there you go. It has forward controls. And the bars are too far forward to support your weight also. The seat is comfortable for the intended ride around town. You know, your bar hopping class or bike night or what have you. But any long trips will have your ass looking mighty appealing to any foraging baboons. And with no wind blockage whatsoever, you will look awesome as you ride folded in half with the wind pushing in your gut so that you resemble 18 again. Ergonomics, or the lack thereof, gets a 1 for just showing up. Alright, fine. I'll give it a 2 for participating, and the whole gut reduction thing. S is for sound. The sound is actually quite pleasant. It sounds like a soft baritone singer, with a little bit of bwap when you lay into it. But fortunately, without the wet fart, you better wipe that sound of the HD Twin Cam 103s. It is pleasantly moderate in volume, but it actually needs to be a little bit louder when you're in the wind, because it's hard to tell if you need to switch gears. The wind is louder than the muffler. Just look at the tack, you say. What tack? They don't have a tack. I'll give the sound an 8, though, for being pleasant at all times. E is for expense. Well, it runs on regular grade gas, which can be found at $3.29 here, compared to nearly $4 for premium. Maintenance costs? Well, there's oil and tires. There's not much more to this bike. With a shaft drive, there's no belt to replace or chain to maintain. You do change the oil every 30,000 miles in the shaft drive, and you change the oil at I think the interval's 8,000 miles. It's a Honda. There's not 3 oils to the engine. So, the purchase price of this bike. Well, you can get them around 11,000 new. And that's easily almost half of what some Harley dealers are charging for a basic bike due to COVID delivery issues. Still, you will want to bring the bars back and replace the seat and add a windshield. Add about $1,000 to the purchase price for all those changes. Even with that, you are still way ahead of the other guys at bike night. So expense for this little Honda, I'm going to give it a solid 9. Buy a used one and you'll really rake up the savings. B is for braking. Once the new brakes are broken in, the brakes were very controllable and with zero drama. I didn't skid through a red light once, unlike the numerous times I've done it on a Sportster. You can get the ABS model if you wish, but why? I've yet to lock up the brakes. They simply work right. I give it a 9. T for transmission. Those long gears. I love long gears on a V-twin. It's so much fun in second and third gear to just wrap that baby up. Even though it's only a 5-speed, I'm not in 5th until 65 miles per hour or so. It's perfect. It's a wet clutch using the same oil as the engine. No trouble found. I give it a 9. So adding it all up, we've got, well, did I do that right? That's a failing score in anybody's book. So why did I buy it? Why did I fall in love? Oh wait, I missed a metric. The L in BLT. Remember, this is a triple cheese BLT sandwich review. The L in BLT is for looks. That, undeniably, is the major appeal of this machine, because we Americans will choose form over function every time. That's why bikes with 300mm rear tires and bicycle tires in the front were made. It's the sole reason why tall ape hangers exist. Please, no one can tell me they love getting bug bruises in their armpits. So in the American spirit of the fingers up to the class chopper, the Fury gets it right at half the price or less, right down to its fake novice garage welds on the frame. Now you know the welds were done by a machine, and they were done to purposely look like somebody in their garage built this bike. For the rule breakers and name takers out there, I think the score gets to break the rules too. This production bike has a unique look. I'm giving it 30 points. That's right, 3 times the height of 10 points. 30 points for its looks alone, because it stands out in a parking lot. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Oh, and since I'm giving orders, keep your chin up in the curves of the road and in the curves of life.